Yep, we're gonna get prepped for the week. Got some chicken spinach feta and some black Angus pepper cheddar cheese. So yeah, prepping for the week. There's a topic that often comes up, and it's about pre-filling oil filters. A lot of people ask me, do I pre-fill oil filters? The answer to that would be no, I don't. Oil has a good enough property to it to stay clung to metal. The amount of time that the oil is going to be out of the system until you put new oil in and put a new filter on, it's just moments. Oil pressure's there, not even just a few seconds before it's there before the meter on the dash even reads, because it's typically dummy gauges in these cars that read oil pressure. I know a lot of people get hung up on that, but there's a big reason why a lot of the manufacturers, such as Caterpillar, if you look at the Cat filters, if you look at the Baldwin filters and stuff, they say to not pre-fill the oil filters on some of them because of cavitation, air pockets and stuff like that being trapped on startup and then bypassing straight into the engine. And then it's kind of one of those things where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I know a lot of people, they like to be hung up on their old school way of doing things, but it's not necessary. Oil has such a great property to it that they have chlorinated additives that they've been putting in oil now for quite a few years, and they've been running it through your vehicle, so it leaves a special coating on the metal, and it's almost like a hardened shell per se. A lot of people would say those, like Kendall GT1 titanium or something like that, it has a higher titanium additive to it to leave that coating behind on the bearing surfaces and things of this nature, is what actually helps in those instances protect on dry startup or no oil at all. I have a chemical additive in the car right now that it's like a chlorinated product, and you add it to the oil, and adding it to the oil helps create this barrier on the metal surfaces on which the oil flows around, and it's almost like it's creating a shell. And just general oil in general, just regular oil in general, without all the crazy additives or chlorinated makeup and things like that, still doesn't have an issue with starting an engine with no oil in the oil filter. If it was such an issue, they would not make top-mounted oil filters. They would not make side-mounted, angle-mounted, all these different mounted style oil filters that the engine doesn't get oil on startup and it still starts perfectly fine. No issues at all. It's been a regurgitated bad piece of information that's been put out in the automotive field for quite a long time, and with me being part of oil, I guess you could say oil technology in the oil field, and companies trusting me for information and stuff like that, and you guys have seen me with specific people like Marvel Mist Oil and stuff like that, where they reach out and they ask for my ideas on things and how things can be made better, and they ask the community. That's never been an issue, but people spread bad information in the field and they like to hold on to it and then spread it to other people. Oh, you got to pre-fill that oil filter. No, you don't. People prefer to do it, but you do not have to do it. It's just something that either you're an extreme for it or an extreme against it. Let me just tell you right now, there's no reason for it. It's not going to do anything. That engine's got plenty of oil in it that's being slung around and lubricated while that system is priming. There's manufacturers now that have went to say, stop pre-filling. We don't like the contamination in there. We don't like the fact that you guys are dropping little oil films from the top of the quart containers and stuff in there. There's no guarantee that that oil going into that filter is clean before you're spinning it on the engine. Just stop doing it. Just put it on dry and start the engine normal. You're not going to do anything wrong, or it's not going to cause any damage. That's how I do it, and I'm going to continue doing it that way. It's never caused any issues at all, and I've been successful my whole entire life doing it. I'm going to continue doing that. There's no reason to actually do it. I don't care what your reasons are, or your granddad, or your private shop, or any of this other stuff. You guys can save that for somebody else that actually cares about those excuses. I'm living witness to what's going on in the field, that it doesn't cause a problem. And I change oil and I work on cars more than 99.9% of you do. And I'm a licensed technician working for the manufacturer. I do this every single day, and I'm mixed in with many venues, and I'm still telling you there's no reason to pre-fill an oil filter, and I'll stand by that. You do more damage in the end game than good. There's a reason why there's also flood mode. If you don't know what flood mode is, look it up on your vehicle. Some imports, diesels and hybrids, don't have it, but you can find it on most American and some import vehicles. So I'll spin a filter on dry, and then I will hold the accelerator pedal down and then take the key and turn it forward. And what I do when I hold that accelerator pedal down is I open that throttle body all the way open, and it's trying to clear out any kind of raw fuel vapor that may be in that intake manifold. It's based on an old principle from back in the day, whenever intakes would flood with raw fuel when we had carbureted engines. Not as efficient as what we have now. And they would hold the pedal down to stop things from spraying fuel into the engine, the intake manifold, clear out the intake manifold while cranking the engine over, and then let go of it and go back to normal and the vehicle would start. Well, in the process of doing that, you're also priming the oil system as fuel is not spraying into the engine. We still have that on vehicles today. So when we do like compression checks and stuff like that, that's what we do. We disable the ignition system. Well, we disable the fuel system and we crank the vehicle over. The ignition system is not really going to cause any extra wear that 5 seconds that you're cranking the engine over after an oil change, and pre-prime that oil system, and now you can start the vehicle normal. Flood mode. Look it up. I have videos in the library. You don't have to have those questions or anything answered here. If you have a push to start vehicle, the only difference is now you got to hold the brake while you're holding the accelerator pedal all the way down while you're cranking. If you don't know your vehicle, some like Toyotas and other imports, they don't do flood mode. There's another way that they do it, but they don't do flood mode the regular way. The engine will race, and you got to be ready to pull your foot off the gas right away. Still shouldn't cause any harm. Even if you try it and it starts to race, just be ready to pull your foot off the gas right away or let go of the key. Not all vehicles have it, but the majority do. Y'all be blessed. And this goes back to all the way back to carbureted vehicles.